Hi, I'm Susan Hawksworth, Director of the Smoky Hill Museum. This video and activities are offered as part of the celebration of Kansas's birthday, when Kansas became a state on January 29, 1861, or to celebrate Kansas pioneers anytime. This dugout behind me is a life-size replica or copy of the first home built in Salina in 1858. Let's go inside. How does this home compare to yours? Is it bigger? Smaller? In this small house, the bedroom is right over here. And the kitchen is just a few steps away. There are always chores to do, important chores that helped families survive. Do you have any chores that you do at home or at school every day or every week? Take 15 seconds to answer. Kids in the 1860s gathered wood, brought in water, collected buffalo chips, helped clean, and more. Pioneer kids would have churned butter as well. Let's see what it takes to churn butter. A lot of people think butter comes from the store, and it does. But before the store, it comes from cream, and cream comes from milk, and milk comes from milking a cow. The Holstein is the most common or typical milking cow on dairy farms in Kansas. Pioneers milked their cows twice a day in the morning and early afternoon. After milking, the milk had to be separated into cream and skim milk. They might put the milk into a shallow pan overnight. In the morning, cream would be on top and they could spoon it off. Some families might own a separator. That's a piece of equipment. The milk went into a large metal bowl on top, someone turned the handle, and filters would separate the milk and cream so they came out different spouts. Once the cream is in the churn, it's ready to go. Let's churn a little bit. This is called a dasher and was commonly used in the 1860s, when the dasher would be moved up and down to make the butter. Today, we're using a daisy churn invented in the early 1900s and used popularly in the 1920s. It's a bit faster and easier to use, and we could watch the butter being made. Cream is made of tiny balls of fat in a protein coating. Churning the cream breaks the fat from the protein, and the little balls of fat come together to make a delicious butter. Let's churn for another 10 to 15 minutes. This butter is done. Let's take a look. The liquid and cream are broken apart into two parts. One part is buttermilk, which I'm going to pour off into a glass jar. Pioneers would keep this milk to save for baking, such as biscuits and pancakes, or even to drink. We'll set the buttermilk aside. Now we need to wash the butter. Not that the butter is dirty, but it does still have some milk in it. To do this, we take a little bit of water and work it through the butter with a paddle. If the milk is left inside, it will become sour and smelly and ruin the butter. This liquid is also saved, but in a separate container, so we'll pour it into a bucket. We're going to pour this liquid into this bucket. It was often used as a meal starter for pigs and dogs. Often it was called slop water. I'm going to clean it 1 or 2 more times to get a good butter, that's important for the pioneer families. You can see how the water is much more clear than it was at the beginning. Families would take this butter to town where they could sell it or trade it for other important items they might need for the home. Some people would put salt in their water to help flavor the butter, or it might be added later. Once the butter was finished, they would form it up into a nice little ball, or for special occasions, they might use a butter mold. A butter mold has a special design on the inside, so when they put the butter in and stamp it out, it would be nice and pretty for a fancy occasion or to sell in town. Pioneers kept their butter cold without refrigeration. They might put it in a bucket, lower that bucket into a well just far enough for the water to cover part of the bucket, but not get in the bucket. The water would be cold. They might keep the butter in a cellar, which is dug into the ground and is cooler, or they might put it in a spring house. A spring house is just a small building built over a cool running stream. The water would keep the butter cool. Here, this is the final product, delicious butter. For your first activity, you're going to take a piece of paper and design a butter mold. A lot of molds are round, but you can decide what shape you'd like yours to be. Remember, whatever you design will end up on top of the butter. It could be something from nature, your favorite team, car, animal, whatever you'd like. This activity should take about 10 minutes. Pause the video, then restart when you're ready. Or wait 5 seconds for the next activity. Welcome back. Remember that pioneers often took their butter to town to sell or trade. Some people had businesses making and selling butter. Imagine that your family is going to start such a business. What would you call it? Take about 10 minutes and design the package you're going to use to sell your butter. Most people are either going to want a 1/4 pound, 1/2 pound, or 1 pound of butter. Which amount would you sell? What would your package look like? What colors would you use? What packages have you seen in stores? Pause the video, then restart after about 10 minutes, or wait 5 seconds for the conclusion. If you haven't already, you can share your activity designs and talk a little bit about them. Butter is in and on a lot of things, from vegetables to bread to cakes and pasta. Butter is important, and it was important in the 1860s too, to help feed the family and maybe to sell or trade. And churning butter was a chore often done by kids. I hope you'll visit the Smoky Hill Museum and see our life-size dugout and all of our other exhibits, activities, and interactive spaces.